Hi everyone. So tonight Jennifer and I are having one of our sort of staple dinners in our household, which is grilled chicken with steamed broccoli, sauteed mushrooms, and quinoa. It's a pretty simple dish, but it's delicious and pretty filling and pretty low in Weight Watchers points as well. So it's a very popular dish in our household, and I know some of you have seen us eating that in Jen's vlogs over at My Housewife Life. And so there have been a few requests for me to do it in a cook nook, and I'm making it tonight, so I thought, why not film it? So come along with me as I prepare that dish. We'll start with a quick tour of the ingredients. There's not too many. Most of these come from Whole Foods. I've got some organic chicken breasts from Whole Foods, as well as these Monterey mushrooms. You know, you can use whatever kind of mushroom you want, but we like these pretty well. And some broccoli, of course, salt and pepper, olive oil we're going to need. The red pepper flakes are optional. And also the secret to the sauteed mushrooms, at least the way Jen and I like it, is lots of garlic. And I frequently use that garlic paste in a tube, but this is a heck of a lot cheaper. Not to mention I couldn't find the tube. But I'm going to try and make a paste out of this peeled garlic, which is much cheaper. And I'm sure it'll be just as good. And I also have this quinoa that we actually got at Costco, this bulk 4-pound bag. Haven't tried it yet, but I'm sure it's just as good as the stuff we usually get. And I don't know exactly what I paid for this, but I'm sure it was a lot cheaper per ounce than what we usually get at Whole Foods. Quinoa, by the way, is a very special grain that has a lot of protein in it. So you can sort of use it in place of rice, but for the Weight Watchers points, you do better than rice because there's protein to offset the carbs that are in there. So the first thing I'm going to do is break down my broccoli so I can throw it in the steamer so it's ready to go when I need it later. And I already showed the chopping up the broccoli technique that I use in a recent video. I think it was the plank grilled salmon video. So I think I'm just going to speed this up real quick. And there we have it, some nicely chopped broccoli. Oh, and by the way, my apologies to everyone who asked in the comments for that salmon video about where this steamer comes from. It was a gift, we think, from Jennifer's mother, and none of us know where we got it, or where she got it. Maybe it was Williams-Sonoma, or maybe it was Crate and Barrel, but whatever the idea was, it's been determined that they don't have it anymore. So I'm sure there are other very good steamers out there. Good luck finding the one that works for you. Right, so my next step is to get my chicken prepped for the grill, and I'm just going to drizzle a little olive oil on there, and then a little salt and pepper. Oh, and I forgot my tongs. I'll use these tongs to turn the chicken to avoid any possibility of cross-contamination with my fingers. Just a little more olive oil. You know, I think most of this oil cooks off. I don't know. I am no nutrition expert, but definitely oiling proteins that you're throwing on a hot grill is always a good idea. It definitely helps develop a nice crust and crispy exterior and seal all the juices in there quickly. So I'm just giving chicken a nice turn in this oil to try and get it coated without using more oil than I need to. And then, you know, so I prefer a very generous helping of salt and pepper. You don't have to use this much, but I really do recommend that you use some. Again, I'm no expert, but that's one thing I see in like every show on the Food Network, especially Robert Irvine in Restaurant Impossible. He's always berating the restaurant chefs that say, well, there's salt and pepper on the table. Some people don't like salt and pepper. I'm not going to use any. You know, now I appreciate some people don't handle sodium as well as others, but salt and pepper that you add early on in the cooking process like this has a very different effect than salt and pepper that you add at the end. If you only use a little, you don't even really taste it, and all it does is really enhance the natural flavors of the protein that you're working with. Now, the amount that I'm putting on, it's definitely going to also add some independent flavor as well. Jennifer and I happen to like that a lot, but So it's up to you, it's your preference, but I do highly recommend using at least a little. So I like to prepare my chicken just like that, and I'll let that sit for about 10 minutes before it goes on the grill, which will also give the grill time to preheat. In the meantime, I'm getting my quinoa started on the stove. The quinoa preparation is very simple. You just follow the directions on the package. The proportions are 1 cup of quinoa to 2 cups liquid. I'm using water here, but you could use, a vegetable broth or a chicken broth if you wanted to. And then the technique is to put the quinoa in cold water, heat it to a boil. As soon as it comes to a boil, I'll put the lid on, reduce the heat to low. It cooks for 15 minutes or so until you can see all the water has been absorbed. I've also got all my mushrooms here after I just rinsed them with cold water. I know some people don't believe in running water over mushrooms, that it somehow affects the texture. That's not been my experience. Alton Brown says it's okay too. So, I'm with Alton. But, the mushrooms come with dirt on them usually, so at least a quick rinse under water I think is a good idea. Now I'm letting these dry off for a little bit before I'm going to chop them up. So here my quinoa is just coming to a boil, so I'm going to give it a little stir, and then I'm going to cover it and reduce the heat all the way down to low. Covered. I'm going to go somewhere between low and 2, and then set my timer here for 12 minutes. It may need more than that, but I want to check on it at 12 minutes, and I'll just look to see that basically all the water is gone. Alright, so now I want to get my garlic paste ready, and the first thing I'm going to do is chop the little nubby ends off the garlic, and then I'm going to use this little food processor thing to blend them up, which I've never actually used before, so that'll be interesting. I just found it in the cupboard, and for what it's worth, people keep asking, one of the common requests is, can you do a video of like kitchen essentials, like tools that every chef should have? I think I will do a video like that eventually, but the honest truth is I really don't know. Almost everything in the kitchen Jennifer bought, not because I asked her to. I mean, this knife, I definitely had expressed desire for some fancy knives, so that was nice. But in terms of, the Cuisinart stuff and I don't know, anything else, honestly, I don't even know what we have. I have to go looking for it. But as I've been cooking a lot more over the last year, I'm starting to have some more independent opinions, so I might be getting close to the point where I can do a video like that. In any case, once I get done chopping the little ends off a whole bunch of these garlic cloves, I'll show you how I make the paste. Or at least how I think I'm going to make the paste. Like I said, never done this before exactly. Alright, so I actually prepared that entire tub of garlic, and I'm just going to add a little splash of olive oil. Pretty sure that's 2 teaspoons, maybe, something like that. Just a teaspoon or 2 of olive oil, and then I'm going to add just a, 1 little turn of salt there. And this, and the way this blender works, I've never used it before, like I said, but this guy plugs into the top, and then I push a button, and there we go. So that sort of looks to me like it needs just a little bit of additional olive oil to come into the texture that I want, that I've seen from that paste in a tube. That it's just the way that paste incorporates with the mushrooms in the saute pan is better than I've ever been able to do when I chop garlic by hand. And I think it's a combination of finely chopping it with a method like this and also having the right amount of olive oil blended in with it. So that, it's sticking along the walls a little bit, so I just have to knock it down. But that's starting to come together for what I want to see. There we go. That's looking pretty good. So I may blend that for just a minute more, but you can see the idea of what we're going for there. Some nice chopped garlic. So here's my garlic paste after I've removed it from the food processor. So my buzzer just went off for 12 minutes on the quinoa. It's looking pretty close, but I can see there's still some standing water at the bottom, so I'm going to Cover it again as quickly as I can and give it another 2 or 3 more minutes on low heat. And also, at this time, I just put my pan on for the mushrooms. I'm preheating it over a medium heat. And I'm not going to start the mushrooms until after I put the chicken on the grill, but I start preheating the pan for the mushrooms before I put the chicken on the grill. Alright, so I had my grill preheated very well on high heat, and I just sprayed a little non-stick cooking spray on the grilling surface, and I added the chicken. And I happen to know that my grill is always hotter on the left side and the cooler end is down here, so you sort of can't tell, but this is definitely the thinnest chicken, and they have the fat ends on the left. You just kind of got to know your own grill and where the hot spots are. I mean, this one's pretty even, but marginally I know this side is always hotter. Anyway, this will go for probably 7 minutes a side. So after 2 more minutes, or 14 to 15 minutes total, there was no water left at the bottom of my quinoa, so I took it off the heat, and I'll just let it sit like that until we're ready to serve. Alright, so now I'm going to get the mushrooms ready for sauteing, and I'm just going to pop the stems out of each of the mushrooms, because I don't think they're very pleasant in this kind of preparation. The stems are much tougher than the rest of the mushroom. I mean, if there's one where it's really hard to get it out, the small ones, it's okay to leave it in there. I am keeping the stems because maybe I can think of something to do with them later, make a little soup or something, although, full confession, I haven't actually done that before. But the way I like to prepare these mushrooms, it's much easier if you take the stems out. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm just going to cut them in half, and then they'll be ready to saute. Alright, so as far as the chopping them in half goes, nothing real sexy about it, just line them up and chop them. You know, and I haven't found that it really matters if they're right side up or upside down. Pretty much just as easy to chop them either way. Occasionally you get a really big one that you want to chop into thirds, but just chopping them in half I think helps them cook better, to expose some of that internal flesh and get them to reduce down the way we want to. I don't really know if that's true. It's a working theory. Alright, so these mushrooms are ready to saute. So I added about a tablespoon of olive oil to my saute pan that had preheated over medium heat, and then I dumped the mushrooms in, and I'm going to let these cook down for at least 5 minutes, probably more than that, before I add any seasonings. The reason is that if I add salt at this point, it'll extract even more water from the mushrooms than is already going to come out, and that's a lot already. And also if I add the garlic right now, it'll burn before the mushrooms are done, so mushrooms go by their own for a while first. So it's been about 5 minutes, and I'm checking on my chicken, and it's looking like it's coming along pretty quick. Interesting. So I said this was the cool part of my grill, but the small one is actually going super fast, so I'm going to do a little rotation. Let's see, I'll put this one down here. That's what I need, because that one's smaller. So just a little rotation. They need about 2 more minutes on this side, I think, to get an even cooking before I flip them. It's been 4 or 5 minutes on the mushrooms. They're starting to reduce down a little bit, and the pan, which had gotten sticky, is now starting to have some water at the bottom of it. It's sort of a cool property of mushrooms is that they basically deglaze the pan all on their own. So now it's been 7, maybe close to 8 minutes for the chicken, and I just gave it a flip, and we'll need about the same amount of time on the other side. Alright, so I'd say it's been at least 8 minutes that the mushrooms have been cooking down, and now you can see how much liquid I have in the bottom of my pan. That's actually going to make sort of a nice little sauce that will spoon over the quinoa and everything. But this is what the mushroom looks like when I think it's the right time to add the garlic and a little salt and pepper. So I added about 3 turns of salt and a good 7 or 8 turns of fresh pepper, and then 3 hearty tablespoons of that ground garlic paste I had made, about half of what came out of that tub. Now I'm going to mix this up and let it incorporate. So this is what it looks like just after I mixed it up and incorporated all that garlic. And I make this disclaimer all the time. That was a very large amount of garlic that I used. You don't have to use that much. Those of us that love garlic, we enjoy it this way, but probably even just a third as much garlic will still get you a very nice balanced flavor. So as you can see, after I stop you know, stirring it up, the liquid starts to bubble a little bit, and I'm going to let this cook for another 4 or 5 minutes, let it reduce down just a little bit, and then those mushrooms are going to be absolutely delicious. So I just came out here after about 7 minutes on the other side, and I pulled my chicken off the grill very quickly because I think I ended up overcooking it just a bit. With my digital thermometer here, I got an internal temp of about 170, which is higher than you want. You know, the USDA says 160, 165 for chicken is where you need to get it. Personally, I'd rather pull it off around 150, let the temp rise a little bit afterwards, but I think it's a lot juicier if you can pull it off around that area. This is going to be just a little over, but certainly passable when we smother it in that great garlicky mushroom juice. So I let the chicken rest for several minutes, a good 3 or 4 minutes at least before I'm going to slice it. But the way we serve this dish, you definitely want to chop your chicken up in advance. You know, I don't really find there's any science to chopping up a chicken breast. Everyone's a little different, but you just kind of find the spots where you can make a reasonably even cut and then dice it into reasonably bite-sized pieces, and that's what it's all about. There we go. So Jennifer and I'll usually eat 2 of the 3 chicken breasts, and then we'll have 1 for leftovers. Jennifer had a long day today. She was at the physical therapist. She's still in the shower, so I'm just going to chop up 1 of them right now to show you how I finish this dish. So the first layer is some quinoa in the bottom of your dish. We like to use these sort of wide bowls. You know, the proportions are completely at your discretion. I had a very light lunch today, so I'm going to have a nice hearty portion of quinoa there. And then I'm going to add some of my steamed broccoli. There's the steamed broccoli after about 7 minutes in the microwave. Can never have too much broccoli. Alright, there we go. And now I'm going to place the chicken on top. I'm just going to use my hands because I'm the only one eating this. There we go. Oh, runaway chicken. And now I'm going to throw some mushrooms on top. So here's what the mushrooms look like when they're done cooking, and now I'm going to ladle some on top of my dish along with some of that great mushroom juice garlicky sauce at the bottom. So there it is with the mushrooms on top, and now this step is completely optional, but if you like a little extra spice, a dash of red pepper flakes on top is a great way to finish this dish. So, well, I guess I'm not going to sign off quite yet. I'll give you 1 shot of me trying to eat this. Alright, so let's see how he did. Not bad. That was the perfect bite. Just a little bit of everything. Quinoa, broccoli, mushrooms. You know, the chicken wasn't quite as overdone as I thought. It came out okay. And just that dash of red pepper flakes gives it, you know, just keeps it interesting. You know, I'm not going to get quite as excited about this dish as I did about like that teriyaki salmon or sausage and peppers. You know, those are like, really get the wow factor. But this one has the advantage of being quite healthy and surprisingly delicious. So I hope you guys enjoy it, and I'll see you next time.